And it's the caves of Sun City Revisited for maybe the third time, according to Paul. Anyway, this is a wonderful program that he put on several years ago for the Nature Club and for other groups. And then he was one of our first virtual speakers for the Nature Club. And several people have asked if we could record his presentation. So he has graciously agreed to come back and be here while we record this. He grew up outside of San Antonio. He spent almost 3 decades at Kansas City University as the Extension Grazing Land Management Specialist, working with landowners and various agencies and managers managing grazing land. He came here in 2004, and he's been extremely involved with nature in the Sun City Firewise group, as well as being a vegetative management consultant. So Paul, take it away whenever you're ready.
Okay. Yes, this has always been an interesting topic for people. I'm not a cave specialist, so I'm just taking this from other material I have found. So let's follow our bat friend here, and let's see what we can find out about the caves in Sun City. But first, let's remember that National Caves and Karst Day is June the 6th, 2020, or was. And I never knew that until I got to looking around for some information to add to this one. So what's a cave or a cavern? Well, a cavern is just one type of a cave, and there's many kinds of them. There are 5 main types: solution, lava, sea, glacier, aeolian. It's what formed them. And that's the big key you have to realize, is there's a lot of different caves. And we deal with solution caves. They're formed in carbonate and sulfite rocks. That includes things like our limestone, but also gypsum, dolomite, and marble. Think, wow, marble's pretty hard. The caves are formed by the effects of slow-moving groundwater, which is what starts our aquifer recharges in this part of Texas. And most of the caves in the world are solution caves. Now, the reason we can recharge here is it's what we call a karst limestone. And this is a limestone area that has subsurface features such as sinkholes and caves. And this makes a way for water to get down through the limestone and into the groundwater. And as you might guess, they're mostly water formed. There's a few things that you have to realize, and that is that in these areas, there's very few surface streams because most water moves through cavities underground. Our Berry and Cowan creeks are that kind. What we see running is only what can flow above ground. Most of the streams here run underground through the karst formation. In fact, in both creeks, you'll find that they're in real dry weather. There'll be just some open holes of water because that's going down into the karst area and the water is coming to the surface. And that's one reason we have a pretty good wildlife population around here. Cave habitat, what's inside, they're always high humidity, very stable temperatures, and nutrients are derived from the water moving soil and other debris into the cave, and then forms a better nutrient base for all the life that goes on in there. They can be any size. We think about the big ones you hear about and people go visit. That's not what we have here. We have small ones. Even our biggest one isn't very big. So where are the America's caves? Well, if you just take a look around, they're in areas where rock comes to the top of the soil and rock outcrops. But we're going to be just looking down here in Texas at the hill country and what caves are there. And like our own Interspace Cavern right down the road, there's a lot of them in there that people can go in. And I always remember the first one I was in, that's Cave Without a Name over by Bernie. Not a well-known one, but it's a nice little interesting one. Let's take a look at some of the nomenclature. we have a dome of rock above a cave, and that's what keeps the soil from falling in. But when it does break and fall, it creates sinkholes. And we do have at least one large sinkhole here, about a half an acre in size. We do have a few little stalagmites, stalactites and stalagmites, but very few. In fact, mostly what we have here is just a hole or a cavity in the ground with a few things like silt and stuff built up in it and rocks that have fallen in. I got my sources for a lot of this from the book on the right called Texas Caves. It has a lot of useful information in it. But I also picked up this school type thing on Texas Parks and Wildlife that is really interesting and is written for school use. And so if you want to go to Texas Parks and Wildlife, just search for caves and you can probably find it. It's got some interesting reading in it. Let's go look at Sun City just at the surface. Now this was done, the next few pictures were taken within 5 lots during the early construction. And you just see how varied this formation is. This is a large ash juniper. That's an older one. And if you look closely, all those roots were above that hard rock layer. The ash juniper is known for being a lateral rooting tree and has only some very small roots going deep. And that's why they're pretty drought, shall we say, drought gets them pretty good because they can't pick up enough water in that thin layer. That layer down below is solid limestone. And I imagine it had to be cut to get that way nice and clean. This wasn't very far away. It's about a 4-foot deep cut. And if you notice, the limestone toward the surface is what we like to say is highly fractured. And the roots go through there and they are able to break that limestone when they get through, and as they enlarge, they break it more. There's a good soil layer on top of it, probably built up more from silt coming in and from leaf fall. If we go a little further, we'll find this area. Those are little oak seedlings or saplings that are there on top. And because the oak is a deep-rooted tree, they are going down in that fractured rock and making a real good root system into them. Below that is another hard layer, but this one has already has areas that are breaking up in it, so the roots are getting deeper. This one has a lot more old material, primarily soil, roots, who knows what all, some rock, and a good hard rock surface below. And on that one, if in one place we found this little thing right here, that is an area where water has already dissolved out the soft limestone. And this is the process that makes caves. Just the water dissolving out the soft limestone. And so we're going to see what some of those look like here in Sun City. And the caves in Sun City, we have to give you a little caution. Not all the caves that are gated are preserves. We call them preserves because they are being preserved to keep the endangered species inside, or threatened species inside there. Now, what's a gated cave? This is a grate or structure that has a locked gate in it that prevents people from getting in it. And they're mainly for safety as well as to protect the endangered species. Now there's letters or numbers on the grate identify the cave in most cases. That no ID means it's simply a safety feature. The other side of that is that not all caves that have an identification on them are preserves. A big thing, this is in all of our guidelines in Sun City and in the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service guidelines, stay more than 50 feet away from any cave opening, and that's to protect the cave. Let's take a look at our endangered species. First one is the bone cave harvestman. It's a spider, is eyeless, pale orange in color, and less than 1/3 of an inch long with long legs. Kind of reminds me of a daddy long leg spider. Why is it protected? Because they've only found them in a few places. The other one is a coffin cave mold beetle. This is an insect. It is very small. It's less than 1/8 of an inch in length, has no eyes, is dark colored, has some short wings and long legs. In other words, it doesn't fly. So these are our two critters that we are having to protect here. Other things that we found in the caves are cave crickets, scorpions, spiders, ground beetles, subterranean silverfish, snakes, and many more. Now, I have never been in any of these caves, and I don't plan to be. And I think you'll see why as we go through this. We are in the Edwards Aquifer recharge area. We're a secondary recharge, meaning we're not a major part of the recharge, but it's still there. And the aquifer lies below Sun City, but above the Trinity Aquifer. And we have several irrigation wells in Sun City that come out of the Trinity Aquifer. So we get water out, the more we can put in, the better off everybody is. The document that all this material comes from is called Endangered Species Assessment, Sun City, Georgetown. That's the name before it got changed to Sun City, Texas. This document is over 160 pages long, a lot of drawings, a lot of information. And I've just pulled out the things that I think are most interesting. First thing is, this is the original Sun City property before part of it was sold off. And if you notice over on the right side, there is no retreat area. That was not a part of the original Sun City. And part of the northern part of it was sold off earlier, and then the developer bought part of it back after Ronald Reagan Drive went through. The only part that was owned by the ranch was this small piece in the middle called 4T Ranch. Everything else was leased or rented. It was a very large ranch, and one thing we know about it, it was heavily grazed, not in very good management from the standpoint of the vegetation. So what we have now is what we were given. Here's a map of all of the features that were used are found when they were doing this evaluation. Not all of them were worth looking at. 85 caves locations, 26 are protected. They originally found 256 sites. 111 were non-features. In other words, they couldn't do anything, but they could tell there was a cave, but they couldn't do anything. There were minor point recharge areas on 58 of them, and there were actually 85 caves. We have 26 protected now. Actually, we have 26. Yeah, that's right, 26 protected caves. Here's a map of where they lay. You can, the black outlines show where they are. And as you can see, the majority of them are down in the lower right, concentrated in the area where I like to say between Texas Drive and the boundary here. And this is because they're all in different levels of formation. A few of them are in the same ones, but not very many. Priscilla's Cave and Priscilla Well up here at the top were deeded over to the Williamson County Conservation Foundation. We did get back, when they bought the land back, Pulte got back the Prairie Flat Cave, which is in the Berry Creek drainage area. So up in the retreat, we have one there, and one there. That's all they found. I've not been able to find information on these. Most of the time we can find them, but so far we haven't been able to get the documentation on these. Okay, already mentioned Priscilla's Well and Priscilla's Cave and Priscilla's Well Cave and Prairie Flats Cave. We will visit all of these briefly, and there are a lot of them. Any of them with an asterisk is what we'll see. Some of them have another one with it, but we don't have much information on those. There's a lot of the others. I love some of the names. They are really weird. One of them I will point out, Electromag Cave. It got that name because that's the only way they found it. They used electromagnetic wave to find it. Otherwise, they'd never found it. There's the three that are up in the retreat area. And these preserves are about 400 acres in size, if you put them all together. So let's go take a look. The first one is the Holler Hole Cave. It's the Bone Cave Harvestman there. It's next to the Sun City property line in neighborhood 12. And I think some people up in there don't even know it's there. It's about 4.3 acres in size. This is the profile looking through a cross section of it. The depth is around 15 feet from the surface. It's about a 10-foot ceiling. It's not very big. If we look at it from above, first thing I thought, gee, that looks like a coiled rattlesnake. The head's over on the right, rattlers are on the left. But it's not very much in it, just some rocks that have fallen off the ceiling, silt on the floor, and it's dropped down from the top is 14 feet. So some of these get to be pretty good sized. The Double Dog Cave, and the Bone Cave Harvestman is one that's most common here. Next to it is the Smoke Signal Cave. It's at the east end of Blue Heron Trail on Goldenrod Trail Cove. It's about a 21-acre preserve. And this is one that's very easy to see because it's just a few feet off of the street. It drops down about 10 feet, and then it's a 2 or 3 foot high ceiling, and that's about it from the standpoint of the profile. And it's not very big. The whole surface is 18 by 10 feet. It's not a very big hole, but it's there. Mud, clay floor, and that's about it. So you can see none of these are very big. And person wanting to go down there would be, will have to be fairly small. Kia Cava 1. It's near Legacy Hill Golf Course between the 10th green and the driving range. There's a kind of a grove of trees there, and it and Kiva Cave 2 are both in that area. And I mentioned it's the same elevation of Yellow Hand Cave, which we're going to visit later. And the reason here is they're very similar. It's only about a 4-acre preserve. It drops down about 7 feet in the profile. Again, there's some rocks laying on or some slabs laying on the floor. All of these will have soil and clay in the bottoms. Profile is fairly large, 42 by 23 feet. These are not very, they don't have a whole lot of characteristics in them. They're just kind of holes in the ground. The Yellow Hand Cave is between Neighborhood 8 and Legacy Hill's #1 hole, or fairway. It's about 2 acres. It is a different shape. It drops down about 6.5 feet, and then it goes off, and it has 2 drops below, which means it's got more than 1 level. And it's not very big either. This is the looking down on it. It's only about 28 by 11 feet. Some people say, why, that's not even big enough to take care of everything. Remember how small these critters are. They just need a little bit of space. Apache Cave. This is in neighborhood 7. Snake Cave is just to the north. Both of them have letters on them that you can tell. This one had human bones, native Indian culture found in them. So it's a preserve area of about 6 acres. There's even a possibility these 2 caves are connected, but they couldn't ever prove it. It drops down about 12 feet. It's not a very large cave as far as height goes. When you look down on it, it's not all that great. It's actually the area that to drop down, you don't drop directly into it. You kind of offset a little bit. 14, 15, 25, 26 area. This is between Texas Drive and Sun City Boulevard, or as I like to say, between the fire station and the water tower. It's that big open area. And that's why we have that area, is because we have 6 caves in this. Deliverance Caves 1 and 2. These are in the common area by neighborhood 26. I'm not going to tell you just where. And we're only going to look at number 1. This is a multi-level cave. It only drops down about 4 feet, and I don't know who went crawling through all that to make these drawings, but I give them credit for it. There is an area of flowstone, and this is where water has been moving over it slowly and evaporating and leaving minerals on the surface that build up a nice smooth area. And if you see some in nature, they are very beautiful. If you look at the profile, this is about 46 by 33 feet. And that makes it fairly good size. But you can see here it says squeeze to lower area. And so this is the pit to drop down to the next level. They only gave us 1 level though. Dewdrop In Cave. This is one of my favorites. It has a room in it. This is in the area east of neighborhood 26, south of Texas Drive. It has a 30 by 60 foot by 10 foot high room in it. And this is by far one of the largest we have. It's only about a 5.4 acre area. It drops 25 feet to the ground, to the bottom, and it goes out in both directions. But when we look at it from the top, we see that it makes a pretty good sized place. The entrance is right here, in this hole right here. It says entrance pit. And this one has some very small areas leading off of it. Now let's go to Turner Goat Cave. This is Bone Cave Harvest Man again. It's southwest of Dewdrop In Cave, about 4 1/2 acres. Has a pretty wide entrance. Drops down and it's just a long 2, 3, 4 foot high opening that's in there. Areas underground, but it's not very big height-wise. Look, if you look right over here on the lower right, you can see the cross section. It's not very big at all from the standpoint of height. The You Dig It Cave is located by neighborhood 26 southwest of Turner Goat Cave. It's about a 3 acre site. And this one drops down 4 1/2 feet, and it's just a long, narrow, slow ceiling in it. But it goes off in all kinds of directions. So it actually ends up being about 47 by 25 feet that it covers. And when they make these preserve areas, they go outside of it. So there's enough area to protect the cave. So this one it just begins to show you how variable these things are, and the fact that water can make some very interesting changes in our subsurface areas. Now, Trail of Tears Cafe, this cave, is located between neighborhoods 14 and 15. It's about a 14 acre preserve, and it's not one you'd really be able to find very easily. Has a fairly large entrance, drops down, but it's very large, and it says squeeze number 1, squeeze number 2. And this says drain tube continues too low with cold air flow, which means it's going into another place that has air coming in also. And there is a lot of indication that that's what happens. We have airflow between the caves, which means that water can move between them also. Looking at from the top, there's the entrance over on the left, and this just kind of wanders around, and it's not very big. It's about 56 by 25. covers a lot of area, but it's not a lot of opening underneath there. Powwow and Shaman Caves. These are both up off just east of the Summit Loop on Tranquility Trail. And I don't know how many people said I can't find them. Good, because they're out in the middle of a prickly pear patch. You'd have to do some real good looking to find these two. If you look at Powwow, it drops down, and it's about a 5-foot height all the way down. There is some rock piled up in one area. A few stalactites along the way that have been developing. When you look at it above, 69 by 32 feet, that's not very small for what we see here. But it's a lot of mud and silt in the bottom of it. We don't have anything on the other one. Now we're going to go to the Mockingbird Trail area. We have 3 in there: Venom Cave, Unearthed Cave, and Ute Cave. And Venom Cave is one that has a big history here. It's a biologically active cave originally occupied by bats. Rattlesnakes were found in it. It's about a 15-acre preserve. When I say occupied by bats, some of the old timers will tell you that they used to go up there and watch the bats come out at night. It has a different structure on it that allowed the bats to fly in and out. So it is got the only gate on it that is different. When you look at it, it's got a very different kind of a thing. There's the rattlesnake parlor right over there. That's where the rattlesnakes were. The entrance is only about 6 feet down, and then it's a long place going down, and they came down to what they called the chalk room. Some flowstone again. And looking at it from above, the actual rattlesnake parlor is off in a corner. And this just snakes on down all the way into the bottom of the chalk room. So it's about 112 by 40 feet. It's a fairly good sized hole. Unearthed Cave. This one has both of our critters in it. It's about a 15-acre one. And its entrance is at the base of a tree. Goes down and then drops down to a second layer. And they drew 2 additional profiles which showed what other layers in there looked like. So this one is a pretty complex cave. In other words, it has a lot more erodible or soft limestone in it that water could erode. When you look down on it, 52 by 18 feet that it covers at the surface. And it's not got a lot of, shall we say, characteristics in it that stand out. Ute Cave is in that same area, about 15 acres. Has a drop down about 6 feet, and again, long, flat, going out, and continues too low. They call the Grand Council Chamber in this one. Here it is from the top. Let me see, where's the ground? Did they put it in? Yeah, the Grand Council Chamber is right in here. So this one is up in there. I will say one of those is meets the 50 foot from the trail. Most people cannot find it. You have to know what you're looking for to find it. Woodruff's Well Cave, located between neighborhood 34 and White Wings number 16. That would be White Wings. Yeah, that's right. No, that's now the front 9. Whatever it was, front 9 hole that would be. It's about a 12-acre preserve, and it's not too hard to find. It goes down about 15 feet. No real characteristics in here other than it just eroded out. It's just got some rocks in it that have fallen. Collapse or breakdown rocks in one place. In fact, this one, you have to really know what you're looking for to find it. Reach Around Cave, Coffin Cave Mole Beetle, located on Quarter Moon Trail. It's about a 26-acre preserve. Drops down about 5 feet, and it goes down as far as about 20 feet. but it's got a very different kind of a characteristic to it, and there's apparently a large area that has a lot of silt in it. And going in here, the drop is here, the entrance is right in the middle, and this all goes down, a lot of silt in it. The one thing about this one is everybody says, oh, I know right where that one is. And I tell them no, because it's not the one at the end of the trail, it's the one at the beginning of the trail. And nobody can tell me where it is, but I can tell you, you can't see it unless you go into the brush. So some of these are pretty well hidden. Choctaw Cave is located in neighborhoods 40 and 43, right along Mustang Island Street. It's a small area, not a very big cave that you see on the surface, but it's pretty good sized underneath. Now this one is such that they put the profile at the bottom of this drawing and the plan type thing up above. It's just a long, narrow cave with a lot of debris on the bottom. Just to remind you, not all gated caves are preserves. The gated caves are for safety as well as to protect the endangered species. Letters or numbers on the grate identify the cave in most cases. No ID means simply it's a safety feature. Please don't go close to these caves. We need to protect them to make sure everything stays safe and you stay safe. So our bat is coming back, and all I'll say is see you all around. Thank you.
Paul, thank you so much. We have really appreciated hearing all about the caves. There are far more than I even thought. Maybe they're all connected underneath our houses. That's kind of scary. Thank you so much, Paul, again. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank
Good
you.
job.